Good morning and welcome to the garden family. My name is Mrs. Miller and I've been doing this for a long time. So this gardening channel is really just to help people who are starting off or kind of stuck on what they want to do. This is more of a kind of real look at a garden in action. I've had to restart my garden. So we are, even though I have 25 years experience, I restarted a garden that I already had. So what that means is last year during COVID, and when everyone's restless and want to get out in their yard, while everybody else's garden was getting fluffy, mine got a scorched earth policy applied to it, and we just got rid of everything, or so I thought. So now I'm restarting the garden, and more on a smaller scale than what I had before. So we're really just going to talk about where to start, how to keep going, and where do we go from here. So first things, we're just going to talk about who, what, when, where, how, and why. And I know there's something else in there, but I'll figure it out. So the first is who. Who is doing the gardening? Who's going to be in your garden? That is more important. Hey, you going to let him out?
Is that side gate open?
Nope. So my husband's trying to let my dog out. And that is Coda, or my resident helper, who is not really a helper. Babe, are you serious? He's so bad.
Let the side gate open.
You get an introduction to my
Never
helper.
mind.
Oh my gosh. He's just, he's so bad. Hey!
Don't knock over my tripod.
I know, right? Hey. He's so bad. Oh my God. He don't help nothing. Anyway, the who also includes who. Are you going to have dogs in your yard? Then you have to plant certain things. Are you going to have children in your yard? You have to plant certain things, and there's certain things you cannot plant. And so all of that taken into account, I have not changed the way that I garden, except for in the back. I don't have the backyard garden anymore because it's now my dog's yard. And when I had kids, I didn't garden too much differently than what I do now, because I really don't have too many, I guess you could say, fully poisonous plants. And when I did, the kids didn't mess with them because I just made sure they didn't. Ain't that right, Sid?
Yeah.
So anyway, so those who's are important. You have to take that into account. And also when you're doing who, you have to figure out who's going to be in your garden. Are you a person who likes to entertain? That's also a part of the when. In which I'm looking at my husband and the dog. I see what they do. Just leave him there. We'll open up the side gate. Okay. And so the who part is also who's going to be in your yard. Do you entertain a lot and things like that? Just tell him to go around. Look at my pup. I know he's not a puppy on camera, but he's a pup to me. Isn't he sweet? So who and what? What are your plans for your garden? What are you planting? If you're doing vegetable gardening, that's a whole different channel, and that is not this one. I don't have the patience for vegetable gardening because you really have to take your time and you have to plant correctly. You have to plant in succession, and you can't have an inorganic vegetable garden. Now I do everything organically here. I don't really add any man-made things unless it's maybe the occasional fertilizer. Otherwise, everything is compost, manure, compost, and more compost. So who, what? So, what are you planting? If you're planting flowers are very easy. Everything, I don't think there's too many plants that are hard to grow except for the ones that are not for your area. So what you're planting, so who it has been covered, what has been covered. Who, what, when. Is that the next one? When? When is a big one. When are you going to start this garden? When are you going to have time to do this garden? And when, as far as, do you think you can really start a garden in June? You can start doing things. You can garden anytime that you want to. There are no hard, fast rules with gardening. The when is just whenever you feel like it. But you need to make sure that you have time. If you're going to do a vegetable garden, you need to have the time to do it. You cannot just kind of go away on a vacation for a week and think that everything's going to be cool. So, I would head on to a vegetable gardening channel for that. But as far as flowers, they're so easy as long as you do everything according to your zone. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So who, what, when, where, and how and why. So how are you going to do this? How are you going to get this accomplished? Are you going to have help from people? Are you going to bring hired help in to get these things done? These are all things you have to think about. Another win I want to cut back to is your zone, and I'll put that link in the description. It's to the USDA maps. It's very important that you plant according to your zone, your region, and you also need to plant according to your microclimate. My microclimate, which is the climate in your space, in your yard, is totally different than your neighbors. My neighbors next door have nothing but sun. They have a few little trees or whatever, but they have full sun most of the day until the evening. Neighbor over here has some trees, but he gets a lot of sun, but his backyard is completely shaded like mine. Then the people across the street, which are the apartments, of course, they have sun, but they get the blazing hot sun in the evening, and they all have shades up because it's just so blazing hot over there. So you really have to think about your microclimate when you're gardening. How and what else is there? Who, what, when, where, how,
Why?
and why. Oh, that's a good one. So why are you gardening? Are you gardening to keep up with the Joneses because their garden looks good and so now you want to, do what they're doing or one up them? That's not a good reason because you'll never keep it up. Do you want to garden for curb appeal? Then you don't have to do a garden per se. You can just put out some really beautiful plantings where you don't have to be fully invested if you're just trying to get curb appeal, especially if you don't have the time. And I think that's a good starting point for everybody, is just to do something just for curb appeal and see if this is something that you're going to enjoy doing, because gardening is a monster. Because once you start planting stuff, and it's almost like instant gratification to a certain extent, not always, but every time you get out there and you weed something, you plant something, you deadhead something, you clean up or whatever, or you create a flower bed, you're getting instant gratification on those things. Some other wise, are you doing it for other folks? Oh, you need to have a garden, you need to do this. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. Just like, with this gardening channel, I'm just doing it because so many people ask me questions, people who are not, of course, online or anything. It's just friends, family, people I work with, always asking me advice, so I thought I'd just get on here and throw some stuff out there. So probably next video, hopefully, if I get a couple of views and somebody has any questions, and they can ask that. But otherwise, we'll just start going step by step on everything. So thank you for joining me. And there's always a cup of coffee in the hand. Have a great day.